Here's my point, though, about the Calvinist Arminian discussion being, good answers to the wrong question. My response would be the biblical story, however, presents a different question. The question in the Bible, or as those reading the Bible would have asked it, would be this. When a person moves from covenanting with one God to another, can they change their mind and return to their original God? And if a person changes their object of worship, what happens? So when Jesus said, abide in me, and he warns, don't stop abiding, I think he's talking about that covenantal idea of, and everyone would have known this in the original world, or the reader's world, that we're talking covenant language with a deity. I go into covenant. I worship this deity. Abide in me. That's all that means. So in that sense, do we have a story of the Bible that is talking like this, worshiping a deity, coming into a covenant with a deity? I think it's all over the place. Abraham, his father served other Elohim. He changes and worships Yahweh. I love the Jacob line. We did this when we did the Genesis study. It's an amazing line. If Elohim be with me, then Yahweh will be my Elohim. Talk about a covenant. I mean, he's just saying, if you uphold your end of the bargain, I'll uphold my end of the bargain. Pharaoh, who was Yahweh that I should obey him? Jethro, now I know that Yahweh is greater. Rahab, Yahweh your Elohim is Elohim above. In other words, you have these lines of conversions, or these people who convert, and they're showing covenant language. That's why, then, in this context, Jesus sounds just the same. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross. Luke 9. If you continue in my word, John 8:31. If anyone does not abide in me, there we go, 15:6. 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom, but those who do the will of my Father. There is a covenant being cut as you join into this thing called abiding in Christ. Paul talks the same way to me. If indeed you continue in the faith, Colossians 1:21, provided you continue, Romans 11:22. If you hold fast to the word I preach to you, 1 Corinthians 15. If we, listen to this one, 2 Timothy 2:12, talk about a covenant. If we endure, he will also reign with him. We will also reign with him. If we deny him, he will deny us. It's simply and I know we don't like to talk this way as evangelicals. We want to say a prayer and get saved. I'm recommending the Bible doesn't talk like that. It talks in terms of a DCW aware theology, talks in terms of a covenant that you're making with the deity. And I'm not going to read all this that I have on the screen again, but you can go beyond Paul. You can go through Hebrews and James and 1 John and Jude and so forth. It's still the same argument. Here's the point, you don't get into Calvinist and Arminian debates. You are listening to people who are going into covenant with the deity, and they ask, can we stop? Yeah, we can. Yeah, that's the temptation. I'm going to stop worshiping Jesus and go back to Delphi, or go back to Apollo, or whatever the god of my village. That was the fear, that I would stop abiding in Christ and join myself to another deity. So, as for the good answer to wrong question issue, the biblical material never got around, in my mind, to the either or philosophical question of whether the believer should, in retrospect of his own salvation, A, give all credit to God, or B, take credit for his own choice. To me, that's a philosophical question of, do I give credit to God? Do I give credit to myself? Well, I can see maybe that happening over a cup of coffee in a shop in Corinth, but I don't see a biblical discussion like that. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. And I think also we give all credit to God, because ultimately, we can leave that to God, then basically saying, yeah, you chose me. It's appropriate for God to say back to us, yeah, you chose me. It's like at that moment when we're standing before the king, we're not going to say, hey, I chose you.
You're so smart. Yeah.
It's actually more of if we're thinking properly in a courtroom, in a throne room, it's like, thank you. Like glory to you. You chose, chose me. And the Father would just say back,
what I recommend to you listeners is, if you're sitting in a classroom or a Sunday school room and you start talking Calvinism and Arminianism, put up your hand and say, this was not the question that the Bible was asking. The Bible was asking, the people in the Bible, the characters of the biblical story, they were asking, Can I switch from one God to another? And if I do, what happens? That question was answered all the time. Don't do it. Don't switch from Jesus. Yes, you can switch from Molech to Yahweh. You can switch from Thor to Jesus. But if you switch back, if you deny him, he will deny you. That's how covenants work, and God works that way. So to me, that's the question of the Bible, and Calvin was 1,600 years too late.